Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Reus. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Graceful. Sally Hurts down for Anthony Modeste.
Wolf. Not a bad idea. And there it is for Coco. For Borussia Dortmund. The long wait is over. Unbridled joy in the Revier Derby.
Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake, joined as always by Carver. Here to talk about the 6-0 thrashing of Wolfsburg. We did it again, put 6 past them like we did the end of last season. It is not again, just started, but real quickly, just going to say sorry for the later episode. We typically try to record Tuesdays, get the episode out Wednesday. Both Carver and I had a busy week. I was working late and out of town on Tuesday when we typically record. So hope you don't mind a late episode. Hopefully you can squeeze this in before the match this coming Saturday. But Carver, I know we said we both had busy weeks. I'm off to a rough start, so I'm just going to pass it over to you and ask, how are you doing, man? How's it going?
Don't throw it to me. I'm having a rough week too. I'm doing well. I mean, we're in the home stretch. Tomorrow's Friday, and we're one more day away from Dortmund football on the weekend. Hoping for another 6-0. This time, I know you said we got 6 past Wolfsburg, but this time we actually got the clean sheet too. Yeah. So 3 points, 6 goals, 0 goals conceded, and just still neck and neck with Bayern.
Yeah, that was the bummer. I remember the Wolfsburg game vividly last year, and I was hoping we'd do it again. But like we let them get at least 1 goal, but not this time. Kept the clean sheet. Kobel was happy man. But yeah, 6 goals. And Carver, last week you were so down and so out, so you don't have to get into all of it. But how are you feeling just after this one?
I mean, it's hard not to be super happy after a performance like that and a result like that, of course, too. But I'm just still maintaining, an objective view on this and being a realist and just powering through. I'm not going to get excited about the title until we win at Augsburg. That's whenever I can start to be like, okay. And that's, of course, if Bayern drop points too. But, whether or not we pull this season off or the title off, we've had some major stumbles this season, but at least we're hopefully going to finish these last few games strong because we obviously thrashed Frankfurt and we thrashed Wolfsburg. So hopefully we're going to finish out the home stretch with just 3 wins.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it was probably a couple weeks ago. I think I don't remember if there's 6 or 5 matches left, but we were like kind of looking at the fixtures between us and Bayern and kind of trying to figure out who had the tougher run. And I think we felt like we had the tougher run, but now looking at it, I feel like we have the easier run, maybe because we have 2 home games left. And they still have to face Leipzig. And I think it's Schalke who have been in not looking terrible. Not praising
They got themselves
Schalke,
out of the relegation zone
yeah.
and they've won a handful of games recently. Yeah.
I'm not praising Schalke
too.
by any means, but they have been looking better. They've been looking decent, and they've been putting up good fights in other matches. So I think that can be a potentially tough game for Bayern this weekend. And then they have to play Leipzig, which we know. Like the thing is, like they're playing like Schalke. These are must-win games for their opponents. Schalke needs to stay out of relegation. Leipzig wants to secure their spot in the top 4. So both these teams are going to be fighting. You know what I mean? And Gladbach and Mainz, who we have coming up, mid-table, not really fighting for anything. So I think that bodes a little better for us. I don't want to it sucks being on like Bayern watch, but this is the reality. And they're sitting on 65 points. We're at 64. Yes, I said that right. So 1 point behind them. And I think the fact that we have these 2 home games, we've been great at home this season, bodes well. Again, I'm not going to get carried away, but that does give me some optimism.
Yeah.
And we should talk about the match. I mean, basically, we scored 6 goals, just in and out. The game was, I think it was. I'm not going to skip past We'll talk about the goals and the play, but it was I think the 65th minute. Whenever Moukoko came on and we made those subs, it felt like there was 5 minutes left. I was like, geez, there's still so much game left.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of took we didn't really take the foot off the gas. We still scored more goals after that, but it was just I guess at that point, Wolfsburg was just done completely. But
they didn't show up to begin with. They didn't have much to really win or go for during this game. They didn't really have anything to play for. I mean, they are still really out of the question now for Europe. So they just looked like they didn't want to rise to the occasion whatsoever. But let's get into the lineups here, because I want to talk about how each team set up. So we ran with the back four, Kobel in goal. You have the back four of Rierson and Wolf as the fullbacks, and the center back partnership again of Sule and Hummels. Schlotterbeck still recovering from his injury, so he was unavailable. A midfield trio of Brandt, Chan, and Bellingham. Then you have the two wingers Malen and Adeyemi, and then of course you have Haller as the focal point of attack. And then you have Wolfsburg on the other hand, who set up like they've never seen nor heard Dortmund before, especially with how we've been playing these for this spring. With Karim and Dane on the flanks here. This is completely on Kovac. I mean, setting up his team to do nothing but fail in this game with the super high line, not getting his players to track any sort of runs. He just got it very, very wrong in general. And we completely punished him for it. I mean, we exploited the space all game and just ripped this team apart. And they had some players out as well, but for the most part, he had most of his team available, and just completely got it wrong tactically. And Terzic just ripped him apart for it.
Yeah, got the scoring. Jeez, oof. Yeah, got the scoring started early in the 14th minute. I'm not going to cut that out. I'll leave it in there. I don't mind making fun of myself when my voice cracks. But yeah, Adeyemi getting the goal in the 14th minute. Another header. We talked about Adeyemi can jump higher. He's the fastest player in the Bundesliga, and he's officially got the highest hops in the Bundesliga too, jumping over defenders to get a header from a dude who's maybe 5'7". I love it.
And it all started with a switch of play from Chan over to Rierson, and it's just lazy defending from Wolfsburg from a collective standpoint. If you watch the replay of that goal, and they have the bird's eye view, whatever camera is like on that string going across the stadium, you see Wolfsburg's just the team and the shape does not switch over across the other side of the field quick enough at all. They just kind of slowly jog over there, very lazy, half-hearted, and Rierson had a great first touch to bring it down too. It was not easy. He had to really extend his leg there. Got pretty decent deflection, which it turned out to actually really help Adeyemi. But yeah, he jumped over their center back, and it was insane header. I mean, I don't know if you saw the replay of the camera angle behind, and the ball going over the post and then coming back into the corner, and Casteels had no chance. And yeah, up 1-0, and just a matter of minutes, which we had chances before that too. But yeah, nevertheless.
And before we talk about individual goals again, last week I was really hitting on, I guess, overall team performance and lack of goal scoring. The fact that Brandt was our top goal scorer, and now he's been surpassed by, I think Adeyemi is up there now. And just the lack of goal contribution. And we talked about these guys hitting strides and streaks at different moments, and that's why we've seen this inconsistency, relying on these guys in certain moments. I know this game was crazy and out of control in a good way, but this is what you like to see. You like to see the contribution. Donnie and Adeyemi both having great games, while you still have Brandt contributing a lot too. It wasn't like anyone faded. This was just the culmination of everyone and everything coming together.
Yeah, and I wanted to say Malen was the one that caught up to Brandt in terms of being the highest scoring player on the team this year. But this was a game where you got to really see Brandt come back out of his shell and back into the form that we know that he's been in for the season so far. I mean, his first touch on the ball, just a few seconds into the game, actually, it was a bit negative, and I thought he was going to turn, but because he had acres of space behind him, but he grew him into that game well, grew himself a lot of confidence, got involved, went on to have a great game with 3 assists, 100% passing accuracy with his long balls, made a lot of great runs too, which should not go overlooked. I mean, he exploited Wolfsburg's back line tremendously with the space in behind, and obviously made space for other players too when he made those runs. So good to have Brandt back, and not just in this team, but also back into the form that we know he can be at. And, you can keep going on the list too. It was great to have Wolf back as well. I said as well, on the right-hand side. I mean, I think we're starting to have a really solid partnership of the fullbacks of Wolf and Rierson. They both were great. I mean, Wolf has a good job of creating those overloads and being an attacking threat. Rierson as well brings that grit. Obviously, both of them bring the energy too. So just wanted to shout those two players out real quick because, tremendous games from really all of them, but them in particular.
And on the Brandt thing, in the Brandt, Adeyemi, Malen, Allaire, Bellingham gets a brace. Adeyemi almost should have had the hat trick, but he gets an assist too. So like in a game like this where Adeyemi should have had a hat trick, he got the assist. You still on FOTMob at least, like you still see Brandt with the highest rated player and getting the man of the match from FOTMob at least with 3 assists. So like you see these big contributions all around the pitch, but still Brandt back there running it. And I know this game may be a bit of an anomaly, like scoring 6, but with everyone firing, and I think I talked last week about like just the confidence, and I know we've been this up and down. Like we have a good game and then we have Bochum, and like we have a good game and then Stuttgart before that. But the 2 home games in a row, I think is really going to do wonders for us, like because we can perform at home and now we get the chance to do it 2 in a row instead of this back and forth, and having a game like this where everyone kind of builds on this confidence, I think it sets us up perfectly to close out the season.
10 goals at home in the last 2 games, 0 goals conceded at home in the last 2 games. And if anything this season, Terzic has done a fantastic job at turning the Westfalenstadion back into a fortress that cannot be penetrated. I mean, except of course, you know what? Shut the fuck up, Jake. Enough.
If you don't know, Carver was at the Werder Bremen game earlier this season. Just got to throw that out there.
Barring that insane loss towards the beginning of the season, Terzic has turned that stadium back into a fortress. And I mean, 10 goals in 2 games is ridiculous. And we usually perform well against both Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. Don't get me wrong, at least in recent years. But still, I mean, take no credit away from the team. And this game wasn't just us performing well, but again, it's Wolfsburg just did not show up to play. I talked about as a collective unit, but also just from an individual standpoint as well. I mean, it looked like they tried to just kind of catch us in the break at times with players like Baku and Vind, but they were just really off. Baku in particular, he was stinky doo-doo. Poor first touches, dispossessed really easily. His crosses were ass. He had a shot too in this game that was ridiculously awful too, which a lot of their attacking threat I think comes down that right-hand side and, the pressing high and winning the ball in those dangerous areas and then, trying to catch someone on the break, but it just did not happen for him. And on top of that, whenever they did lose possession, we would have those pacey wingers and Malen or Adeyemi to quickly just get them on the break on the other end. And that's exactly what happened pretty much all game. And they had no answer for it, really. They had, the only opportunities that I can remember is the double chance in the 20th minute, right before we scored our second goal, which Kobel came up big there with the one-on-one against Wimmer. But yeah, right after that, scored again. Malen had that missed opportunity with his, the bad decision to flick it off to Jude. Unfortunately, I mean, he has to use his left foot there and he has to be selfish. And he's been improving that department in these past few weeks. But Terzic told Archie at ESPN right before the game that they try to make Malen uncomfortable in training so he can grow to be comfortable in being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. So he can, obviously be a little bit more comfortable in those situations where he has to use his left foot or he has to be selfish and go one-on-one with those breaks. But either way, just unfortunately, he hasn't worked out those part of his games, at least completely yet, in terms of his lack of decision-making skills. But either way, Donnie still had a good game too.
Yeah, finishing has been so much better.
Mm-hmm. It really has.
And I know just early on, I know a lot of people were talking. I mean, I think people know now, like Adeyemi, Malen, great. They've arrived. Hopefully he keeps going. But I'm just throwing it out there for anyone who any Adeyemi haters who I don't think are around anymore, but I know they were there at the beginning of the season. I kept saying, hey, it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit to adjust. Austrian Bundesliga to the big Bundesliga. It's a jump. It's different, and he's here. He's here. He didn't hit the penalty, but he's here.
Yeah. And I mean, his header we already talked about. His assist for Haller was brilliant as well. I mean, the man is unbelievably fast. And I love the hunger that he has to go and score goals or just to be involved in goals in general. Even whenever we lose possession, when we're in an attacking third, he immediately just tries to hunt down the ball and with that gegenpressing style and try to win the ball right back so we can go and try to have another go. So, and that's the kind of players that Kale wanted in this team whenever he first took over as sporting director. He wanted players that not only wanted to be here, hopefully, more long-term than recent signings, but also players that just have that drive, that hunger, that grit, like Ryerson. I mean, we got him for pennies, really. And he was just a brilliant signing having him on the team now. And he brings that same kind of energy that I've been talking about. So, Adeyemi had a great game. Second half is pretty much the same thing. I mean, we played through their press really well, which is what people, I think Reese Edwards, who's, I've retweeted some of his stuff on Twitter, but he put out an article, I think it was for BVB Buzz, of how we can try to beat Wolfsburg. And one of the things that he talked about was just playing through that high press of Wolfsburg, which is what we continue to do. And in the second half, they were so done and dusted that they were just chasing shadows at that point, especially early on in the second half when, Jude, can we talk about his goal in the 54th minute? The run he made, what was that, a 35-yard run before he sent Arnold for a hot dog across the stadium? That was disgusting. And then took it back to the middle, had an insane shot with his left foot, might I add. Top titty. Would have been one of the best goals of the season, if it not for Castillo's getting his fingertips on that. But it turns into an extremely bizarre goal, but a goal nonetheless. And
that's why it was destiny and fate
it kind of
went in.
I've never seen anything like that before.
It shouldn't have been saved. No, It was insane. But you saw it, like, I remember watching it, like, you see the ball dropping and you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is happening. Like, I didn't know how it got there.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's bouncing in the back of the net.
It was like in the net and I was like, is that a goal? And then in my head, I was like, why am I asking that? It's definitely a goal. It just, I don't know. I don't know how the ball ended up there. It's weird. But just continued steamrolling on them. And only a few minutes after that Jude goal too, you had Adeyemi's second goal as well. So it was a party, man.
Yeah. And I have nothing else to say. Like I said, 65th minute, like, I couldn't believe there was so much time left still.
Yeah.
And we got a couple more goals. Looking good. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about this game except it was beautiful.
Got a bunch of people some great minutes too. Paslick came on and got some minutes, and he did really well. He had 3 passes into the final third. 2 of them created huge chances. One of them led to a goal, and then he won 75% of his duels as well. Bochum got a decent fullback. At the end of the day, Paslick is still 24, and he's been at this team for 11 or 12 years, if I'm not wrong. So, he's still pretty young, and he's still got, years ahead of him to continue to improve his game. But from the minutes that he was given, just kind of thrown into this, and he's played, 2 or 3 other games this year? He did very well for his 20 or 25 minutes on the field, man.
It's probably too soon to talk transfer stuff, but obviously Paslick's going out, and we brought in Ryerson, who we kind of brought him in at the right back, but he can do either, and he does left and right extremely well. Is this the official, like, with Wolf playing so much right back this year?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is Wolf I know I've talked about it a lot. I probably asked you so many times about this fullback, not situation, but like, I'm just wondering, I know there's talk about Benzabaini, but I don't know if that's actually been official yet. I'm curious what our fullbacks are going to look like next season. If Wolf is just doing a job this season, or if Wolf is actually locking in this right back position and Rierson's going to be left.
I don't see anyone that has, of course, Ryerson, of course, can be that utility player on the left as well, but that's not his favorite position. And that's a good problem to have for them two, battling out a spot to start next year. Given if we're going to still go ahead with Benzabaini as the left back, you have options now. Yeah. And in my opinion, I put Wolf as our starting right back, but, very close second for Ryerson. And if one dips in form, you have the other ready to go. And they both are, pretty similar players. So
Well,
and
that's the thing.
There's going to be quality either way.
I don't think that necessarily depends on. I think that where Rierson starts depends on more who's performing on the left at this point, because I think Rierson is probably the starting right back if like Guerrero's been good to go, but it's like if he's not showing up at training or if he's got a knock or sick or whatever, it's like Rierson starts left with no problem being bringing Wolf in on the right. It's so, and none of it like makes me mad. Like I don't, with how Wolf has been performing all season at right back, I have no issue with seeing Rierson at left. It's just like intriguing to me, like what's going to happen. Has Wolf done enough to like lock that position in and possibly be like, I don't know, the right back for the next season? It's going to be interesting to see what happens start of next season, and obviously in the off season and transfers and everything.
I would say I think Rierson does a better job at playing on the left than Wolf. I think Wolf is. I think it's maybe a harsh, so lack of a better term, but he is a little bit more one-dimensional when it comes to playing on the left-hand side, which, it's not a knock on him because it's obviously the weaker side, but I mean, Rierson is just class with his left foot, which is something I never really expected whenever we had originally signed him, but it's a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
All right. Do you want to get into some Twitter questions or anything else from this match you want to hit?
Hummels, give him an extension if we haven't already had the talks with him already. 4 weeks ago, whenever Schlotterbeck was ruled out for a while, and I said the man's going to have to earn his paycheck if he wants to be here next year, given his contract runs out in the spring or the early summer. But I mean, the man scored a goal against Frankfurt. He's kept a handful of clean sheets now. He's been class. He's obviously helped really organize our back line too. His pace is not there, unfortunately, but man, he tracks back very well still, and it comes up huge in huge moments, and just exactly what the kind of player that we need in this team. Yeah,
he's done it like more than enough this season, like to earn another year. And it just wouldn't surprise me. Like I honestly kind of thought he already signed an extension. Like that's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because like the performances he's been putting in, I'm just like, yeah, he's going to be here next season.
Yeah.
Obviously I think I've talked about it when the captaincy thing comes up. And I talked last week about Bellingham and everything. But it's like, I already just assume Hummels is going to be here. I feel like that contract negotiation is going to be easier. Like I just feel like it's going to be a much smoother process than maybe Royce, where money was kind of a thing and that's in playing time, and that was kind of the discussion. I just think Hummels is going to be a lot easier. Like he's going to be happier to be here and contribute where he can. Like there's not, I don't think there's much negotiation that really needs to happen. Like I hope, at least. I don't know if this is the case. Don't have any sources telling me this. I'm just going with my heart and how I feel about it. But sign him up for sure.
Which kind of bleeds into one of the first questions here, which is from Zaza. A lot of numbers on Twitter. Thank you for engaging and listening. He said Soulinho and Hummels were so good against Wolfsburg. Would you let them both play for the last 3 games as starters if they play at the level they did till the end of the season? And I mean, I think it's pretty much locked down at this point, unless Schlotterbeck makes some insane return in the next week or two. And even then, he's still got to, get himself back up to full fitness. But at the moment, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, really.
Yeah, and I've hit on it so many times. I feel like I've given Hummels enough praise, but like anytime I've seen Hummels slot in, whether
you've been saying since day one in the season that whatever the best partnership would be Hummels, insert Schlotterbeck or Sule as his partner, but it should be Matt's.
Yeah, if Hummels or if Schlotterbeck is healthy enough to come back, I think we will see him. But I have no issues in if that's what we need to do, I'm not concerned one bit. Like I know they were good this match, and I trust that they're going to be good last few matches if that's what we need. They've been good all season, so no problem.
And if we need that stability and Schlotterbeck is fully fit. There were times last year where we ran all 3 of them at once. Don't forget, that was this season still, where we had a back 4, but it was Sule on the right, and then you have the partnership of Schlotter and Hummels. So good question. I think why not at the moment, especially with Schlotterbeck working himself back up to full fitness. Do you want to take the next one?
Throw Chan back there if you need to. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, that too.
Not hopefully we don't need to, but like that's what we saw. Like if there's any concern with Hummels going 90, like we can see Chan. That's the benefit. Like Chan's been performing so well, at the like CDM that Oshchan's been on the bench, but like he's still a good option to come off the bench if you need to slot Chan back there, which is it's like we have weird like depth weirdly in some like utility players. Like you have these kind of utility roles who've been panning out very well, so it's like not bad to have that kind of depth. Yeah. Next question. I don't have it pulled up. I'll let you go.
Oh, okay, sure.
If you're looking at it.
The Borussia Dortmund English podcast, shout out. Another Dortmund podcast asked Jude's celebration. What do you think he meant by it? And his second goal towards the end. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it was before we were recording. You mentioned you don't really want to get into Jude too much, but obviously there was a lot of talk with Real Madrid. And I mean, the celebration looked like he was like the blah, 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 like no more talk, whatever he was saying. I don't know. It looked like he's like, hey, enough of the talk and enough of the rumors. Everything's fine. I've got mixed feelings because I don't always trust when players do this. I feel like you see this a lot. It's like, I get just silencing the talk, but it's like, man, if you're going to stay, just tell me. Just tell me. Pull up your shirt that says extension. Or
yeah.
I don't know. So like it excited me in the moment, but I'm still like, but you could still be gone in the summer. But right now it's like we still have 3 games left. And I know like whatever is talked about online isn't going to affect him. I know that he's driven and is determined to like to win the league with this team. Like I don't think he's going to be distracted by anything. So that's I have no concern until the final match, and then I'll be worried for the summer transfers. But
yeah, and that's what I
think. To think about it.
That's what I think his point was at the moment. Which the rumors, they definitely have some validity. You know, some very top tier sources have confirmed that there has been talks between Jude and Madrid. It looks like there's an accepted offer there. It's just now a deal between the clubs. But either way, Jude, I don't think I've heard anything about Jude talking to anyone in the locker room about that or anything like that. So at the moment, he's just fully focused on this team. And I mean, it's obviously going to really suck when he goes. Some people are less sad about it than others, but I mean, he is truly, we say this a lot about younger players that come into Dortmund, but he's truly a generational talent. I mean, in pretty much every metric that you can look at. So huge hole to fill. But I mean, his celebration, I'm here right now. I don't need to hear all the talking. I'm just scoring goals and I'm putting in and contributing to the team. And that's exactly what we want to see from a player like him. So, I mean, I don't think I liked it.
Also, shout out to Verde. I did pull up Twitter, by the way. Shout out to Verde Q2_512 who asked a similar Jude question about us thinking he'll stay or not. I just don't want to think about it. I'll be worried in the summer. But I'm not concerned about like the talk affecting him at all.
The only scenario I can imagine Jude staying, because it looks like he's already agreed on personal terms, is just the clubs cannot come to an agreement, which this is just, from what I've seen, speculation. I don't think there was anything confirmed about an official bid yet. But from what I have seen from some reports, is that there has been a bid submitted for 110 million plus some add-ons, which is a joke, in my opinion. I think Jude is, I don't think it's crazy to say at all that he is at least 125, 130 player, if not more. So if the club can, if they're asking that high of a price and Madrid doesn't want to match it, then Jude's still got 2 years left on his contract. But that's the only scenario I can imagine. Even if we do win the league, I think Jude just wants to go on to other things at the moment, because when Madrid calls, that's not an opportunity that's going to be there for long, if, ever again. And he's always going to have the Premier League to come back to. So I think he's just looking at an opportunity that is quite literally, a golden egg.
They got that money, that Mbappe money, the money that they didn't use in Mbappe last summer. So.
Also, the midfield trio that he would be a part of in that project is actually a crime. That is a literal war crime by definition. If you Google war crime definition, a midfield trio picture comes up of those three. So,
just random question, off topic. Not really. Who do you got? Real Madrid or Man City? Real Madrid or Holland? I'm going to say
it's going to be Madrid if he goes this summer.
No. Sorry, and the Champions League.
Oh. I don't know. I don't really like either club. I guess Madrid, just because I don't want to see City win anything.
That's why I said Holland. That's why I said Real Madrid or Holland.
Yeah.
Like I don't even like Real Madrid.
No, me neither.
But
Absolutely not.
And I don't like Man City, but I love Holland. I still love Holland.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. If Holland scores a couple, then I'll be happy. If either win and Holland doesn't score, then I won't be happy.
Yeah. Next question from our boy Zaheen. Zaheen, before I get into your question, just want to say I listened to a good amount of your podcast today from the latest episode covering Wolfsburg. Obviously didn't understand much of any of it, but very happy that you are still doing the show and you're getting creative. It sounds great. The audio is great. I love that you're passionate about the team and you're always engaging with the show. So thank you as always for being an awesome listener and an awesome person. He asks, is Eden putting Haller as a false nine? I'm starting to learn a little bit more about tactics and roles, so I might be wrong. I don't think false nine is the term for it, although he is doing similar things of what a false nine would do. So I don't think that's a dumb question. I think a better term, at least in my opinion, would just be a target man at the moment, someone who could hold up the ball, be a little bit deeper, and help with build up, which again is similar to what a false nine is, but I don't think, at least to my knowledge, we've ever classified him as a false nine. But good question. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's good at like dropping back and getting involved in the play and build up. And
playing wide too. Weirdly enough, he can go in a whole different bunch of areas, and not just at Dortmund too. If you could look back to his career, he popped out on, not as a winger, but he does pop out on the wings at times. So sorry to cut you off.
No, we saw it early in his like first couple of games back of like just his hold up play and his ability to pass too. And then I think going wide too, like that's just him kind of drawing defenders out with him and kind of creating all this space, which is a benefit. Like you said, that target man, he can just take up the space and control the game in other ways instead of just like poaching all the time. And we've talked about that too, as far as like goal contribution, like even though he hasn't put a ton in, like he is creating these opportunities by having the defense track him around and everything, like just creating the space and creating opportunities for other players.
Yeah.
All right. Really quick shout out. Before we preview Gladbach, we have to shout out the Dortmund women's team. I believe played today as we're recording on Thursday. They played today, unless my Twitter timeline was way off. Shout out to Adam, who we've got everything for Adam linked. If you don't know Adam, you want to learn more about the Dortmund women's team, especially after this awesome end of the season they're having, where they got promoted again, I believe, and then they just won the Kreispokal 3-0 against a team in a division above them, a league above them. They won the Kreispokal. So, and I think I think they did this last year too. They did a double. Did they? I don't remember if they won the Kreispokal last year, if they lost in the finals.
I think they did lose in the finals, but oh boy, Adam's probably at home listening, going like, "God damn it, I told you this."
We literally had him on the podcast to tell us, and maybe that's why we're remembering, or hopefully not misremembering.
They definitely are promoted this year, though, for sure. I mean, they were promoted last year too, obviously, but you know, you were sounded hesitant, but yes, confirmed they are going up again, and they are flying. I mean, they've been flying. They don't stop flying. This plane doesn't land, baby.
Oh, but definitely give Adam a follow. And if you want to learn more about the Dortmund women's team, he is the source. He's the guy. So shout out Adam Jarosky, and you can find his website, his Twitter, and everything about the Dortmund women's team in the description of this episode.
Yeah.
And then, let's get on to Gladbach. Saturday, 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern Time. Playing in the middle of another match Carver and I need to be paying attention to. But yeah, how are you feeling going into this one? Real quick, I'll just say again, like I said earlier, I'm confident that we're at home. Home form's great. Gladbach's
they're consistently inconsistent.
A little wobbly right now. So
I feel like they've been wobbly and sitting in 10th/11th all season. But yeah, to piggyback on what you were saying, we're pretty much unbeatable at home, 10 in a row now. We've been, again, just flying at form at home. Gladbach, they've been teeter-tottering. They just recently beat Bochum 2-0, but they were at home. Before that, they were winless in the last 3. I mean, I feel like you can pretty much expect a good amount of what they're going to bring. Danielle Farka, just even with his time as the Dortmund 2 team or his previous clubs before that, Norwich, Krasnodar, I'm not going to pronounce that name. I'm just going to take the L on that one. Either way, he's pretty consistent with his tactics. 4-2-3-1, aggressive, quick 1-2 passes. Catching people on the break. He's now got a double pivot of Weigl, the deep laying playmaker. Of course, if you're a relatively new Dortmund fan, it'd be fun to watch Weigl play this weekend because he was one of my favorite players whenever he was at Dortmund. And then the partnership of him and Kone, another player, if you are new to the Bundesliga or Dortmund or whatever, definitely keep an eye on him as well. He is another great box-to-box midfielder. Someone that, wouldn't mind having a Dortmund personally, especially if Jude leaves. But either way, and then I'm also excited to watch Scally play as well, just as an American fan. He's pretty much a instant starter at Gladbach for the last 2 years. So there's some individuals, and then of course Benzabaini too. Handful of individuals that'll be fun to watch, but I'm feeling confident as well. I think we're gonna coast here. Given just Gladbach again are consistently inconsistent, and we're just insane at home. And hopefully we have the mentality to just keep pushing and putting the pressure on Bayern to keep performing. Because again, only 1 point behind. I'm going to go 3-0.
3-0.
Ooh, sorry, just hit my mic.
I like the confidence. I was thinking about the reverse fixture, looking back,
which was rough.
It was rough, but that was in our early. That was
one of the darkest days this season. I know I was pissed off last week, but I was also very pissed at that game too. I was screaming. That's also the game where we had like the meme of Kobel just losing his shit on the field whenever we conceded the third goal in the first half against Gladbach. But yeah, that was annoying.
No, not a good. And we've been a completely different team since that time. What I remember most about that was the talk about us signing Benzabaini and people underrating him. And what I said was like, I think at the time he had 5 goals, which was more than like any of our goal scorers. Like he, as the left back, he had more goals than like our strikers or our wingers or anything. It was like
he hasn't scored since either.
No, but I did just check the stat. I was like, but I remember that vividly, like talking about like he had 5 goals
in the first half of the season. That's kind of insane.
And people didn't want him, like bring him on, let him be our leading goal scorer at the time. But yeah, I'm confident too. The home thing is really getting me. The 2 wins coming off a big win at home, playing again at home. I'm really confident. I think it will be 2-0. I don't think it's going to be quite as crazy as Wolfsburg, but who knows?
Yeah,
maybe we'll score 8. Maybe Adeyemi will get his hat trick this time. I'd love to see all of it.
I would love to see that too. Before we get out of here, just another 2 quick updates off the top of my head. Jamie Bino Gittins is unfortunately going to undergo surgery again for his shoulder. I'm not sure if it was the first time he initially injured it or just some other time in the past that I'm forgetting, but initially it was against Hoffenheim back in the fall. And whenever you have a shoulder injury, it's just going to haunt you sometimes for the rest of your career, unfortunately. But it's come back again, and he's going to have to go through surgery and miss the remaining of the season and probably a good amount of the next few months in general. I imagine he'll be back maybe by the start of the season, but obviously sucks losing him and losing him to an injury that we're familiar with as well. Dahoud's the same way. He's had shoulder problems in the past, and that shit will haunt you and just stay with you. So that,
and they both, it was like a 2 or 3 week span where they both had those like big falls and big hits on their shoulders, and we're like, how is this happening?
Yeah,
like both of them had like very similar injury. Ugh.
So unfortunate for him, and unfortunate obviously for the club to not have a young bright talent like him. And then another story that I wanted to touch on too is Ansgar Knauf looks like is going to be permanently signing for Frankfurt at the end of his 2-year loan spell away from Dortmund. Looks like there's an agreement on personal terms. Now it's just a matter of, again, like the Jude situation between the 2 clubs. The numbers I saw today, I'm hoping it's not true, but I saw some reports saying that it could be around 5 or 6 million euros for the sale of Knauf, and I think that's kind of low, personally.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to have him on a team that will have regular minutes rather than rotting the bench next year. So.
Yeah, I feel like for him too, it's such a weird situation to be disassociated with Dortmund for so long. Like after you're with the club for 2 years and you kind of just get so integrated in their culture and everything. Like I think it would be so weird to come back. Not that I'm trying to, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just weird to not, if you feel like something like 2 year, basically I'm saying I don't like the idea of a 2 year loan unless you're definitely trying to get rid of the player, because that's just so much time away.
I initially liked it just because it gave him a lot of time to grow when he was on the second team, and then he was bouncing back and forth between, the first team and the second team. And this is obviously it was a great opportunity for him to grow into the league for 2 years too, and not have the pressure of performing at a club like Dortmund at such a level that we were demanding him to be at the time. Sometimes we put so much pressure on younger players almost to a fault. And you could look at, a handful of players in the recent years, Isak being the one that comes to my mind first, of just, Marino too. If people remember him, he's a beast at Sociedad now. But you don't want to keep throwing players at that age onto a team and in these insane games week in and week out. And then if they don't perform, throw them out. So, it was a successful loan spell from him, but it just looks like we're going to be parting ways, unfortunately, and looking elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up. We definitely said we were going to do a shorter episode like we do every week, because the quick turnaround between the game, we want to make sure you could get the full episode in before you watch the match on Saturday. If you made it this far, you obviously did, and we really appreciate you listening and hanging out week after week. We're going to come up on our summer break soon, which just a preface, in the summer, we tend to stay active on Twitter, especially with transfer news and everything. We come in with an episode every few weeks, maybe, depending on the updates we have. Like, remember when we signed Zule, we did an episode, or that was at the end of the season, wasn't it? But
that was in January. But yeah,
Schlotterbeck with the Schlotterbeck announcement and other announcements. So just to preface, we will have some Dortmund content in the off season, especially with the U.S. tour coming up. If you missed it, you didn't know, and if you're in America, Dortmund's going to be playing Chelsea in August 2nd, I believe, and then they're playing in Vegas a few days before that, into July. So I'll say it again. If you're going to be at one of those matches, Carver and I are going to Chicago. If you're going to be at one of those matches, let us know. We want to get connected and get some stuff from both matches, whether it's a little takeover, whether we're talking to you, we want to do something. So let us know. You can find us on the socials, Twitter and Instagram at the BVB Podcast. You can also, or at the BVB Pod. You can also email us. Jeez, I cannot talk. I
thought you had it. You were doing great.
It's been rough tonight. I think I said MLS. I think I mixed.
No, you had it.
Email. Okay.
Email us.
Email us. You know what I'm trying to say. At the BVBpod at gmail.com, if that's easier. Because we'd love to connect about that. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing stuff throughout the summer. Few matches left, and hopefully we're raising the trophy or the shield.
The Meisterschale
at the end of it. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.